Hey folks, it's your moral leader, Luke Forward here, and we're talking Torah. It's the Torah hour of power. Make all the goyim weep.
Wait. You got the wrong guy for that.
And so it's Torah portion, 2 Torah portions this week, so
2 for 1.
Double your pleasure. Matot and Masei, so it's the last few chapters of the book of Numbers. And I'm here with Dr. Mark Kirschbaum, who's been writing the weekly Torah commentary for Tikkun magazine. For how long have you been doing this?
Well, they started out as shiurim that were given live in Israel, God, back in the 90s. So it's been a while.
And do you do a new one each year, or do you just keep recycling the same ones?
Well, generally, I try to do new ones each year. Then life kind of caught up with me, being here in the diaspora.
Right.
So I generally try to add something. I'm going to definitely add something this year to the material. I'm going to probably present it now.
Oh, okay, awesome. So we've got 2 Torah portions. I'll let you take it away with anything that you'd like to talk about in those portions.
Oh, am I just...
Go ahead, any point, and I'll listen. I'll actually listen to you very closely and follow up on...
Because you have a holistic question.
I do, but I could go into there. Like, why is the Torah so strict about vows?
Ah,
I mean, like
good point.
The Torah... Okay, good, because like, I'll give an example. The Torah is not strict about what we in America today consider vices. The Torah is not strict about alcohol. The Torah is not strict about smoking. Doesn't mention that. The Torah is not strict about drugs. The Torah is not really strict about sex. I mean, you kind of have incest, you kind of have adultery, and you kind of have homosexual sex. But it's not like hung up and really strict on sex or any of the things that we traditionally consider vices. But on vows, it's like elaborate and spends a lot of time on vows. So why is the Torah so strict about vows?
I think it's you're making a lot of interesting points that one would like to go through piece by piece. But in summary, essentially what you're doing is you're enumerating a set of values that come out of the contemporary, essentially primarily Protestant culture, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're making a set of assumptions about what is or is not important as a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
So fixation on sex and such things. But that's carrying over a set of values of one culture into another one. So, for example, the famous story about the Christian missionaries who go to India, and the first question they're asked, well, this is an interesting new religion. What are your food taboos? And when they didn't, they said, well, we don't think about food. They said, what kind of religion is that? So, obviously there's a different set of priorities.
Yeah.
Here, interestingly, although it seems like a trivial matter when you talk about vows and stuff, these are things we don't even do really anymore. These set of laws are not really held at this point in time. But yet, when you contemplate it, it's interesting. The mystical texts say that there's that this was the chapter when Moses was going to reveal to the people a huge amount of deep mystical secrets. This was this set of what we call the vow section was really encoding a set of the deepest mystical secrets, which is why it begins so unusually. That the parasha begins being told that this passage in the Torah was passed on to the tribal leaders, rather than the usual way where God says, "Speak to the people." So there was something deep and profound and core to whatever it was that Moshe wanted to pass on in this issue. And perhaps, with that, perfectly fitting introduction, I think we could say that, the truth of Torah is the truth of the Word. Now, it seems, if you really think about it, it seems pretty obvious, right? What's the first thing that God does? A speech act.
Yeah, let there
The
be.
world is created with
Speaks
speech.
the world into being.
The first, the grandest evocation of truth to the people, right? Our historical moment of giving the Torah are the Aseret HaDibrot.
10 statements.
Dibrot being another word for word. So this transformation of the word from Amirot, as the Midrash calls it, God's words in creation of the world, the Dibrot, the words of the commandments, and on to the words we use in extreme circumstances. So I think that's pretty much, I think, the centrality of this. Now, it's interesting, these are laws that are not binding all the time. Right? These are laws of circumstance and challenges that a person faces in their life. They need to evoke the word as a corrective, and that's really the key to this whole section, and it brings and all the questions around it and all the issues. Why this strange language? Right? We're told that Moshe uses a unique form of prophetic word here. He says Zeh hadavar. This is as opposed to the usual way. This. He uses the word of this, and the fact that it's revealed to the tribal leaders. So all in all, when you come to dealing with the word, there's a
So it's no wonder that Jews tend to be pretty good with words. I mean, Jews tend to be lawyers. Jews, I think, account for most of the great stand-up comics in the United States. We're disproportionately journalists and writers, novelists, Nobel Prize winners in literature. Like the Torah has a reverence for words. Words are. Doesn't the Hebrew word for word also mean thing?
Well, it goes. I don't know about the stand-up comics. I mean, I think that
Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, I'm a fan. But
I just poked her on Facebook.
Really? Did she answer?
No, not yet. But
Because she's
I'm
looking
sure
to meet a nice Jewish doctor. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure she's very excited. Luke Ford poked her on Facebook.
I actually have her album, her soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the songs that on my iPod.
And her sister's a Reform rabbi.
I'm proud to say that I downloaded it off the internet, which seems fitting. But I just take the word thing one step further, without being able to really fully explain what it all means, but at least to hint at some of these things. That the creation of man, right? The giving of life. I mean, we're used to perceiving it in the Sistine Chapel manner.
Right.
Naked dude with a hand.
Right.
But the Targum Onkelos says that what was breathed into Adam, the giving of life, was ruach mamalala, which was the language of speech. I guess animal life per se was easier, and that was earlier. But that which sets, in the Jewish perspective, that which the uniqueness of mankind and humanity is in the word. It's in the abilities of speech. So again, that's why this is such a central moment.
And
in fact, I'll jump ahead a little bit, and I'll say a really, I think, a nice concept. Most of the material that I come from comes out of the classical Hasidic literature, which I think is one of the greatest accomplishments of hermeneutics. It's a great experiment. It's very successful. But the Ishbitzer, the Meshiloch, he, as you mentioned, these two parashot are usually attached. There's the Matot, which begins with this idea of the word, and then there's the Masei, which begins with which describes the journey through the desert. So